The D.C. prayer breakfast has long stood as a symbol of unity and shared faith among America's political leaders. Each year, lawmakers, dignitaries, and faith leaders from across the political spectrum gather in Washington, D.C., setting aside their differences for a morning of reflection, prayer, and hope. The event is designed to remind those in power of their common humanity and the higher ideals that should guide their service to the nation. In a city often defined by partisanship and relentless debate, the breakfast offers a rare pause for reflection, a moment when the usual noise of politics is replaced by quiet contemplation and the search for common ground. But on February 5, 2026, the atmosphere was anything but serene. The anticipation was palpable as guests filled the hall, and the presence of national media hinted that this year's gathering would be different from those before it. Former President Donald Trump's arrival as the keynote speaker marked a dramatic departure from tradition. His reputation for controversy and headline-grabbing statements preceded him, and many wondered how his presence would shape the event. Known for transforming any platform into a stage for his political message, Trump's energy and rhetoric stood in stark contrast to the breakfast's usual spirit of reconciliation and humility. His speech was charged, passionate, and unmistakably political, leaving many in the audience uneasy. As he spoke, attendees exchanged uneasy glances and whispered among themselves. The question on everyone's mind was clear: would Trump respect the solemnity of the occasion, or would he use it as yet another opportunity to air grievances and rally his base? Instead of fostering unity, the breakfast became a stage for two starkly different visions of leadership and faith to collide. The room felt divided, with some applauding Trump's boldness, while others recoiled at the politicization of a sacred tradition. In the end, the event would be remembered not for its prayers, but for the jarring contrast between political combat and a pastor's heartfelt plea for compassion and understanding, a moment that captured the deep divisions and the enduring hope at the heart of American public life. Trump opened not with unity, but with a personal grievance, relitigating a past media slight from the New York Times. He insisted his joke about never making it to heaven was twisted, using the moment to attack the press and defend his image. Rather than address the crowd with humility, he doubled down. "I really think I probably should make it," he declared, making his spiritual fate a public spectacle. This set the tone. The speech would be about Trump, not shared values. The event's purpose, reflection and unity, was quickly overshadowed by personal vindication. The lines between the sacred and the political blurred. The audience braced for a performance, not a prayer. Trump pivoted from media grievances to attacking Democrats, questioning how any person of faith could vote for them. He accused his opponents of systemic election cheating, repeating unsubstantiated claims about rigged elections. Trump cited polling on voter ID, arguing Democratic leaders were out of step with their own voters, implying hidden motives. The prayer breakfast podium became a partisan pulpit, deepening divisions instead of bridging them. Themes of forgiveness and unity were replaced by suspicion and accusation. Faith was weaponized to drive a wedge, not to heal. The event's spirit of reflection was lost in political warfare. After Trump's divisive speech, the atmosphere in the room was tense, with many attendees quietly processing the words they had just heard. As the event neared its end, an unnamed pastor stepped forward to the microphone for the closing prayer, his presence commanding attention. The room fell silent, anticipation hanging in the air as people wondered what message would follow such a charged address. With a steady voice, the pastor prayed for Trump to find greater compassion and clarity. A pointed, yet respectful, response to the rhetoric that had just filled the room. His words were carefully chosen, each one carrying a weight that seemed to linger in the air. He did not shy away from addressing the need for understanding and kindness, qualities that felt absent in the preceding speech. The pastor reminded Trump of the immense weight of his influence, urging him to choose empathy over chaos, and to remember the responsibility that comes with leadership. He spoke not just to Trump, but to everyone in the room, calling for a higher standard of conduct and a return to the values that unite, rather than divide. He named the poor, struggling farmers and families in hardship, grounding his prayer in the real struggles of Americans. By invoking the stories of everyday people, those who often go unheard in the halls of power, he brought the focus back to the nation's true challenges. His prayer was not abstract. It was rooted in the lived experiences of millions, making it impossible to ignore the human cost of political decisions. The message was clear. Leadership is measured by care for the vulnerable, not by political victories or personal triumphs. The pastor's words served as a gentle but firm reminder that true greatness is found in service to others, especially those who are most in need of compassion and support. Remind him we are all Americans, all made in the image of God, the pastor prayed, challenging the US versus them mentality that so often divides the country. His call for unity was both spiritual and practical, urging everyone present to look beyond differences and recognize the shared humanity that binds the nation together. The pastor's prayer resonated deeply, stirring emotions among those in attendance. Some were visibly moved, reflecting on the power of words to heal and inspire. In that moment, the room felt transformed, a space where hope and accountability could coexist. It was a courageous act, using prayer to call for unity and moral responsibility. Even in the face of political tension, the pastor's willingness to speak truth to power, wrapped in the language of faith, set a powerful example for all who listened. The pastor's words became a moral compass, redirecting the focus to empathy and shared humanity. In a moment that could have ended in further division, he offered a path toward healing, reminding everyone that leadership, at its best, is about lifting others up and building bridges across our differences. During his speech, Trump attempted to acknowledge the president of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Felix Tshisekedi. Instead of using his name, Trump gestured and said, "President, would you stand up please?" An awkward, impersonal moment. He followed with vague compliments. "You are so president. We appreciate you being here." The lack of preparation and basic diplomatic courtesy was glaring. Commentators saw it as another example of Trump's unconventional, self-focused style on the world stage. Acknowledging a visiting head of state by name is a basic sign of respect, one that was notably absent. The incident underscored Trump's prioritization of his own agenda over the event's unifying purpose. Trump shifted to his global reputation, boasting that many world leaders disliked him, a badge of honor in his view. He recounted his time at Davos, claiming his presence disrupted the global elite and proved his outsider status. Trump criticized European policies on energy and immigration, contrasting them with his own America First approach. His rhetoric was about dominance, not diplomacy, asserting American strength by rejecting globalist norms. He painted himself as a solitary force against a flawed international establishment. For supporters it was strength, for critics, isolationism. The speech reinforced his brand as a political insurgent, not a bridge builder. The world stage became another arena for confrontation. Trump returned to domestic issues, boasting his administration took out 2,000 monsters from Washington, D.C. He praised militarized tactics and celebrated violence against gangs, projecting an image of brute force. Trump cited a statistic: 2% of the population causes 90% of violent crime, to justify aggressive law enforcement. The message: identify the bad guys and remove them by any means necessary. For some, it was a promise of safety. For others, a disturbing endorsement of state-sanctioned violence. The speech offered simple solutions to complex problems. Nuance and reform were replaced by a show of power. The 22 sovereign town mine on Bochen sides. Prayer breakfast will be remembered for its stark contrast, a moment when the intersection of faith and politics was laid bare for the nation to witness. In a city where power and belief often collide, this event became a microcosm of America's ongoing struggle to define its moral identity. Donald Trump's speech was a whirlwind of grievances and partisan attacks, fusing faith with campaign rhetoric in a way that electrified his supporters and unsettled his critics. He invoked religious language to frame political opponents as threats, blurring the line between spiritual conviction and political ambition. For many in the room, it was a familiar performance, one that used faith as a rallying cry, but also as a shield against criticism. The pastor's prayer, in contrast, called for compassion, responsibility, and unity. His words were a gentle but firm reminder that faith, at its core, is about caring for the vulnerable and seeking common ground. He spoke of the need to heal divisions, to listen to one another, and to remember the shared values that bind Americans together, regardless of party or creed. He confronted Trump's rhetoric not with anger, but with a moral appeal to conscience. The pastor's message was clear. True leadership is measured not by the volume of one's voice, but by the depth of one's compassion and the willingness to serve others. In that moment, the room felt the tension between two very different visions of what it means to lead. The event became a debate over two visions of leadership: power for self or service to all. On one side stood the allure of authority and dominance, on the other, the quiet strength of humility and empathy. The contrast was not just political, but deeply spiritual, challenging everyone present to consider what kind of nation they wanted to build. It forced a national reckoning. Is faith a weapon in partisan battles, or a moral compass for leaders? The question echoed far beyond the walls of the breakfast hall, stirring debate in homes, churches, and communities across the country. Americans were left to grapple with the role of religion in public life, and whether it should unite or divide. The breakfast reflected a nation caught between division and the call to our better angels. It was a mirror held up to America's conscience, revealing both the fractures and the hopes that define this moment in history. People from all walks of life left the event with questions about their own beliefs and about the future of the country. The choice between those voices remains America's central challenge. As the sun rose over the Capitol, the nation stood at a crossroads, facing a decision that will shape its character for generations to come. Will we choose division and power, or unity and service? The answer, as always, lies in the conscience of the people.